My video for this week is on the article of perceived barriers to higher education in STEM among high achieving underrepresented high school students of color. Reason I chose this article to talk about as being a science teacher, this obviously is quite alarming to me in all categories. And unfortunately, I don't think it is just for students of color. I think that we have a huge lack of students that are entering into the STEM field, no matter what race, what gender, whatever. All this article, it was quite interesting how it did highlight the African American and Latino population, primarily the African American population, and how they looked at even students that obviously are well adept for that. They have high scores. They're doing well. But it's kind of trying to figure out, why are they not going into STEM? Why is there lack of them going into the STEM fields? And so obviously as a science teacher, this is kind of alarming to me, because if we aren't encouraging students to go into the STEM field, what are we doing as science teachers to, or mathematics or engineering, any of those? What are we doing that's not encouraging them or not getting them interested into those fields? And so it was kind of interesting how as I read through the article, looking at it and looking at the some of the perceived barriers, and a lot of them I found quite interesting, came back to more race and the discrimination and things like that, not so much about the actual ability. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better as a science teacher, that it's not a lack of ability by these students. But it still is alarming, because there's all those other factors that we need to make sure that in our classroom we are eliminating, and that we're not letting that be a perceived barrier for these students, and highly encouraging them to go into the STEM field, especially because that is a very large growing field, and it's a very good paying field. And that's something that we a lot of times don't see being offered for students of race. And so being able to give them that opportunity and get them into those fields that they can make good money, so then they can go back and be the role models that it mentioned in there, that some of these kids did better with when they were working with a role model, somebody that had been through that. So just finding a way to be able to get these students through that process and to get them interested into the STEM field, to me, is very, very important. It's something we need to do. And just trying to figure out ways in our classroom that we are getting them past those perceived barriers and those things that they feel like they're not going to score as well, or they're not going to do as well, they're not going to be as productive in those areas, and helping them to realize that, yes, they are just as productive, they are just as capable and just as talented, and getting them to get past all those perceived barriers that they've come up with, of the racism and all that, and just getting past all that for them, so that they can, basically have confidence in themselves. And the other part that I found really alarming with that is that the females really did not feel as confident. The males were more able to push through that, and I think that there's been a lot more role models, positive role models for them that are out there. They have the athletes that are out there and things like that they can kind of look up to and kind of work through. And but the lack of females in that role is alarming as well. So just kind of my take on the idea of STEM, and trying to encourage our students to get into these fields, and trying to help them get past those barriers that they think that are there, whether they really are or not, and helping them to have success in the STEM field where they can have success, and they're needed. They're in high demand there. So it'd be a great field for them to pursue.